Welcome, friends of Tempo. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight. We come to you this evening from this very beautiful Universal church Unitarian church called the Neighborhood Unitarian Church in Pasadena, which to provide a little context with this gorgeous greenery behind me, is situated exactly next door to a very famous National Heritage property, the Gamble House, which was constructed in 1908 as a summer home for the founders of Gamble, as you probably heard of Procter and Gamble. So we're in a very lovely part of Pasadena for tonight's streamed concert as we all gradually turn the corner and are now at least happily able to meet together to rehearse and come to you. Although we don't have a live audience in the house, we have you. So we're so happy that you're with us. Let me tell you a little bit about Tempo. Tempo was founded in 2008 by Julia Heinen, our clarinetist, and Daniel Kessner. And from the beginning, its mission has been to promote and perform the very best contemporary music. And so it continues on that mission now 13 years later. My name's Glenn Price. I'm the conductor of this organization and director of performing and visual arts at Caltech, just around the corner from here, where we do more than land things on Mars. Our members here from Tempo are very, very highly distinguished performers of the major orchestras in the Los Angeles area, as well as frequent studio performers, having performed on thousands, literally thousands of soundtracks combined. They also hold important academic positions at major institutions like the School of Music at Cal State Northridge and also at Cal Arts. So we're fortunate to have a real lovely, fantastically talented group of performers with us tonight who will be performing works by our four featured live composers who are going to be meeting later in the evening, as well as an icon of contemporary American composition. So, by way of introducing our first piece, allow me to introduce you to our first composer, Charles Peck. And thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's going to be a great pleasure to share this concert with you. So let me introduce you, please, to Charles Peck, who, I will introduce Charles. Charles is a Philadelphia-based composer whose work has been called daring, wild and shimmering, and substantial, personal, and genuine in prominent reviews. His works have been performed by the Minnesota Orchestra, the Albany and Columbus Symphonies, Alarm Will Sound, Kaleidoscope, and many others. He's recently been the recipient of commissions and awards from the Barlow Endowment, ASCAP, the Orchestra of St. Luke's, the New York Youth Symphony, the Left Coast Chamber Ensemble, Symphony in C, and many others. He currently teaches at the University of Arts in Philadelphia and is completing as a doctoral candidate at Cornell University. And I had the pleasure of first meeting Charlie when in my previous position at the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, where he was completing his master's degree. So we're delighted that he's here tonight to tell you about his first piece, the first piece in our program, Sunburst. Charlie.
Yeah, great to see you again, Glenn, even though we're over a distance here. Yeah, the piece, I wrote this in 2016, and this is a piece that to me was really about this like duality. And there's two movements, which is sort of like an unusual number of movements for a chamber piece, but I really wanted to highlight these like two very different feelings. So the first movement is called Reflect. And so the piece is called Sunburst. And so I'm really thinking about like the energy from the sun. And so the first movement is Reflect. It's super high energy. The whole ensemble is constantly jumping around the very wide range that they have available to them, so that you'll see the violins jumping from their highest strings down to their lowest. You'll see the pianist jumping from end to end of the keyboard. And so it's really about that kind of insane amount of energy that propels the entire life on this planet. And then the second movement is called Absorb, and that was to me a chance to think about like the act of taking all that energy in. And so the whole piece, that whole second movement for me was like it's kind of like a battery powered music box in my head. If you can put yourself in that headspace, that it draws in energy, it like breathes in this energy. And the idea is that once you build up enough energy that it like turns on the music box. And so it'll play something and then it'll run out of energy and it'll need to restart. And by the end, it builds up enough to like play this full tune. And then at the end, it's sort of like the battery is dying. So it's like slowly shifting down pitch wise. It just falls away more and more, so that like you have this like dying sound of a music box, which was to me a nice way to use all that energy that you're absorbing. So that's the whole idea behind the piece.
Thanks, Charlie, and let the concert begin. And that was Sunburst by composer Charles Peck, as performed by Tempo. If you're just joining us, that was the first piece in our program tonight, and a wonderful, wonderful work to start off tonight's concert. Later on, at the end of the program, for those of you who are interested in speaking with the composers, there will be an opportunity to do a little chat submission of questions, and I believe that some of them are prepared to actually stick around and answer questions, which would be wonderful. So the second piece on tonight's program is by someone very near and dear to this organization because he's actually one of the two founders. Daniel Kessner was a composer and flutist and conductor who was on the composition faculty of the Cal State University in Northridge from 1970 until his retirement in 2006. So he was a co-founder of the group along with Julia Heinen in 2008, and he continues to enjoy a lively international career. Now, I have to point out something quite personal here, that Dan is a very youthful person who apparently is about to come up to his 75th birthday, which is quite a remarkable achievement. And so, besides offering my congratulations, I want to share a little bit of insight because I happen to know his secret to his youthful energy. So Dan is a little bit of a role model for me in how to live actively and enjoyably in retirement. Now, I knew that he spent a considerable amount of time in Hawaii, which of course is a nice place to have some sunshine and tonic, but I also had the happy instance of bumping into him in the streets of Paris a couple of years ago, where after chatting with him, which was not expected, but after chatting with him for a little bit of time, I found out that he was equally at home and spent a lot of time in Paris as well. So thanks for the life lesson, Dan. I greatly appreciate it. And I want to welcome him to us to introduce his work, Melodious Studies. Daniel Kessner.
Thank you. Great to be with you. I still feel very close to Tempo, and I'm very appreciative that some of my music is still figuring into your programming. I'm not sure I know the secret to my youth, by the way, Glenn. You'll have to tell me about that one later on. I'm still figuring these things out. This piece that we're going to hear, which I'm looking forward to very much because I haven't heard it for a little while, was written some 30 years ago. And the intent was the initial intent. It's a piece, by the way, that I still feel fairly close to because I've played a lot of the movements myself on my recitals and been fortunate enough to hear other performers play them as well. So I'm still very much in touch with these pieces. The intent was to approach melody in a very traditional way, try to come up with ways of expressing myself beautifully simply through melody, which it seems like a very normal, everyday kind of a thing now, but coming out of composing in the 1960s and 70s, this wasn't that expected at that particular moment. So it was kind of a return to traditional values. Two of the pieces in the three that David Shostac is about to play, are fairly traditional, although the first one is kind of a concept piece. It attempts to translate an idea that doesn't really seem to lend itself well to a wind instrument, to the performance by a wind instrument, and that is Breath is the name of the first piece being played. It starts from the image of a cleansing breath, which means inhaling and exhaling. And this is not the way you play a wind instrument. So what I was trying to come up with was a way to express the feeling of a complete inhale and exhale within the phrase of a wind instrument where you're playing obviously only exhaling. So keep that in mind as you listen to it. The middle one of the three, Lament, is probably the most traditional of the three. It was actually written for the cello. I was dividing my practice time during that period about equally between flute, clarinet, and cello. Clarinet was kind of my main instrument, which went way by the wayside at some point. I think you'll hear that as you listen to the phrases. It was written, I wasn't a very accomplished cellist, certainly I'm not yet, but it was written so that there are no position changes within each phrase. The changes of position were from one phrase to the next. So I'm not sure how much that will come across when you hear it played on the flute, but you can keep that in mind. The third of the three is the one where I departed from at least my own norms to the greatest extent. This is largely an improvisation piece. It's something I haven't dealt with much, I've enjoyed playing it. I've enjoyed hearing other performers tear into it. And one thing that I need to say about it, it has never sounded the same twice, neither by the same performer in two performances, nor certainly when you hear it by different performers. My contribution was to write a bunch of notes. I hesitate to say a series because that has a different implication. So there are some notes, and it's a group of notes that loops back on itself. The player can start anywhere in the circle he or she likes, go around it. It's kind of circular as many times as you want, with any tempo, any rhythm, any arrangement of notes and rests, any articulations, dynamics that you want to apply to it. All of that is up to the player. All that I contributed was the group of notes. So I'm looking very much forward to hearing what Dave Shostac, a good friend and a great improviser, will have to say about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So this next performance is, as Dan was saying, by David Shostac, who, in addition to being the flutist for tempo, has just recently stepped down after, I think, more than 30 years as principal flute of the LA Chamber Orchestra. So he's about to perform for you Melodious Studies by Dan Kessner. Bravo, David Shostac, and bravo, Daniel Kessner, for a very beautiful work. If you're just joining us, that was Melodious Studies by Daniel Kessner as performed by David Shostac here in our tempo concert tonight. I want to say what a great pleasure it is to have our composers with us here this evening. It really does mean a lot to us. And we've been very judicious, very careful in who we've selected to perform this evening. So it's doubly enjoyable for us to have them with us. Our next composer, Nicholas Bentz, is originally from Charleston, South Carolina. He's found inspiration in historical materials. His work explores the destructive relationship between sound artifacts and time. His art centers around the blurring, juxtaposition, and amalgamation of stylistic idioms into singular sonic statements. Nick is currently a PhD candidate at Brown University, pursuing a doctorate in music and multimedia composition. I have to say, I've gotten to know this piece a little bit because I'm about to conduct it here in a moment. It's a very, very exciting work, so I'm interested to hear later what Mr. Bentz has to say. So please welcome Nick Bentz, who will tell you about his work Glimpse, as I make my way over to join the ensemble. Nick, all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. So Glimpse was written back in 2018, and it was originally commissioned by Melissa Lander for the Quattro Quartet, which is a group based in Baltimore, Maryland. When I was working on this piece, I was really interested in the way that sort of our brains establish our environments, the way that we sort of take the stimulus around us and create patterns out of the repetition of those stimulus. And from those patterns, we start to infer meaning. And once we have those meanings, we can really start to sort of construct and infer what will happen around us. And so I was really interested in sort of creating a piece that sort of operated in the same way, or at least the material sort of operated in that way. And so this piece really consists of a bunch of different sort of micro processes that sort of learn off of each other, almost like an artificial intelligence. So you have these three, what I sort of term like modules, or sort of large scale processes that the piece sort of runs through. And as they run through it, they get stuck as they sort of hit these sort of seams in between each other, and they're sort of forced into each other, and they're forced to sort of learn off of each other. And so you have, this constant interplay between these different textural ideas. And eventually, the piece sort of comes to a halt. It gets stuck sort of in this extended clarinet cadenza that's accompanied by these sort of swooping gestures and stops in the strings and piano. And sort of the thing that sort of unites this whole piece is that it's really all derived from a simple 5-note set that is established at the beginning in the clarinet. So thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoy.
Okay, well, bravo, tempo players, and bravo to Nicholas Bentz for a quite thrilling and very exciting work that we've really thoroughly enjoyed learning and trying to do justice to your terrific composition. So thank you. It's really wonderful. Sadly, our next composer with us is not with us as he passed away some years ago, but he is an icon of American composition and deserves much longer than I can possibly do justice. He was born in 1908. Coincidentally, that's exactly the same year as the Gamble House next door was constructed. To give some context, he passed away in 2012, and during that long life, he was very active right to the end. Elliott Carter is one of the most significant of American composers of the 20th and 21st centuries, as well as a teacher, and one of the few to have earned a truly major international recognition. So here's a note about the work that we're about to hear, Enchanted Preludes. Enchanted Preludes is a birthday present for Anne Santon, commissioned by her husband Harry, and composed in gratitude for their enthusiastic and deeply caring support of American music. It is a duet for flute and cello, in which the two instruments combine their very different characteristics and musical materials into statements of varying moods. The title comes from a poem of Wallace Stevens called The Pure Good of Theory. This particular poem is all the preludes to Felicity, and this is from stanza number 7, and I'll quote. Felicity, ah, time is the hooded enemy. The inimicable music, the enchanted space in which the enchanted preludes have their place. Now, our stunning cellist, about to hear again, Erika Duke Kirkpatrick, provided me with this little fun fact from her cellist perspective. She wrote a note to me telling me there are only two, count them, two notes in the entire piece in which the flute and the cello line up and play simultaneously. If you're keeping track at home, that would be the downbeat of the third bar and the downbeat of the penultimate bar. So we'll all listen for those. Otherwise, we're constantly chasing each other in different pulse patterns. So I'm sure that you will enjoy hearing David Shostac and Erika Duke Kirkpatrick chase each other around musically in this tribute to Elliott Carter, Enchanted Preludes. Bravo, Erika. Bravo, David. That was their performance of Elliott Carter's Enchanted Preludes. Well, this brings us to our final work on tonight's program, and I'm delighted that we have with us composer Andrew List. Andrew List is an award-winning composer and professor of composition at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. He composes for many different genres, including orchestral works, string quartet, vocal, choral, opera, music for children, solo works, and a variety of chamber ensembles. He has received numerous commissions and performances from professional ensembles and solo artists in North and South America and in Europe. A short list would include the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Zodiac Trio, Alea 3, the Esterhazy Quartet, Concordia String Trio, and Inter Ensemble. In addition, he's the composer in residence at the Zodiac Music Academy and Festival in the south of France, where he presents a composition class each summer. And just a reminder, stick around at the end, and if anyone has questions they'd like to submit on chat, we might be able to steer those in the direction of one of our composers who's present tonight. But right now, please join me in welcoming our final composer, Andrew List. Andrew.
Thank you very much, Glenn. It's really great to be here. I also want to thank Tempo. I want to thank Julia Lorenz and Francoise for playing my music, and for you all staying to the end and hearing the last piece. My piece is called Visions of the Aboriginal Dreamtime, and it's a piece inspired by the Australian Aboriginals' creation story. The piece is in 4 sections. The first 2 sections are joined without a break. And the way their story went is, in the beginning, the world was featureless, flat and gray. And out of that featureless, flat and gray, giant mythical beings that looked like insects and looked like animals, but acted like humans, rose out of the earth. And as they drank water and as they moved around, they created the mountains and the rivers and the streams. And the Aboriginals believed that so they call that time the dream time. And when you look at nature, you're not looking at nature, but you're actually looking at the ancestors. You're looking at the face of God, more or less, in the creation of nature. So they believe that everything is one. The third movement is kind of a love song about the ancestors and connecting with the ancestors. And the last movement is called Corroboree. The Aboriginals, the children don't go to school, but they have these circles around fires where they tell stories of the dream time, and they play musical instruments like the didgeridoo. And in this movement, I use the rhythms that I saw in videos of corroborees, where they had a special rhythm and they had clackers that they were clicking together, and they had the didgeridoo. So this is my, hat off to the Aboriginals.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We look forward to hearing the final piece on tonight's program. Well, congratulations. That was the highly evocative Aboriginal Dreams by composer Andrew List, finishing tonight's tempo program. And there are all of our performers this evening. Congratulations. We're going to take just a moment here. First of all, I just want to make a couple of acknowledgements and thank all of our performers. If they hold still, this may or may not work. Lorenz Gamma, Francoise Regnat, Julia Heinen, Nancy Roth, and David Shostac, who are there standing in. Thank you, they're cooperating for a moment. It's a rare experience that happens. I also want to thank our 4 outstanding composers for being with us, Andrew List, Charles Peck, Nicholas Bentz, and Daniel Kessner. It's truly an honor to have you with us tonight. I also want to make sure to thank the person who's looked after all of the audio and video this evening, Maurizio Alberto, who made all of this streaming possible. We'll take just a moment here with our composers, because I do appreciate that for 3 of them, it's almost tomorrow in your time zone. But let me just get this ball rolling, if I may, with Daniel Kessner. Dan, can I ask you a question? So since you were a founding member of Tempo in 2008, what was it that motivated you to start this group with Julia?
Oh, boy. At the time, we were both excited about playing. We always had been excited about playing contemporary music and just wanted an organized way to start doing some of the ensemble repertoire that really doesn't get played very often. Not only classics, by the way, not only pieces being written this year and last year, but also the classics from 100 years ago, 50 years ago. So, there they are. Hi, guys. Anyway, yeah, that was it. We just, we get to play contemporary music during organization concerts, department concerts of 2 and 3 people, but never really in an organized way with a larger group of really active performers. That was it.
So you may see over my shoulder here our merry band of musicians who comprise our group Tempo. So bravo to all of you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Good to see all of you guys.
Let me see if there are any particular... Oh, Dr. Heinen, you look so fantabulous. We have comments here in the chat. Let me ask another question, which I'll open to any of our other composers who are out on the eastern part of the country, eastern time zone. one of the things that I always find fascinating, I thought tonight was a particularly good example about, is the individual voices. That each of your compositions sounds so specific and unique to you. And so what kinds of things do you draw your inspiration from and leads you in the kind of direction that you go? I can offer this up to Charles or Andrew or Nicholas. Charles.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it's probably an ever-present question for composers, thinking about how you find your own voice. Do you look for it? It sort of is something that I think just kind of happens. And, for me, I've always thought about extra musical topics. So, I told you that piece is about this sort of like, music box and the sun. And so it's like, to me, I just have like these, like when you're composing, it's like you have this sense of like an experience or a sensation. And oftentimes the music is very tied to like a literal idea. So for me, I don't think I specifically think about, trying to capture a specific voice. It's kind of just like, I've got this like sensation of this music, this experience that I want to feel. And I try to, match up all those things, that abstract idea and the music itself. So that's what kind of keeps me entertained while I'm writing anyway.
Andrew List, could we ask you the same question?
Well, I think all composers are, each one of us is kind of attracted to different sounds, different kinds of harmonies, different kinds of rhythms. And kind of like what Charlie was saying, I think, at least for me, and I think obviously for him, each piece has its own kind of sound world, because it's a kind of, you go into the idea or you go into the mood of the idea of what you want to create. But I know that, if you listen to 5 or 6 of my pieces, you would hear certain kinds of chords, certain kinds of, rhythmic or melodic things that I might do. I like to break those things. I don't want to be pinned down. I'm always looking for fresh sounds. And, some pieces might be more tonal or more conservative. Other pieces may be a little more experimental. But, what makes Mozart, Mozart, right? What makes the composer? I think if you listen to enough music of each person, you would hear, kind of what's going on in their sound.
Nicholas?
Yeah, I think I agree with both Charles and Andrew here. I really sort of feel like I sort of have these textures that sort of come to my head. I think that's it's usually textures or gestures is what I hear, and then it's a matter of sort of taking out all the wrong notes and sort of figuring out, what it actually sounds like, and sort of translating it onto the page. And so I think that's where my voice sort of comes through, is in that translation process of just like getting the idea and sort of refining it into something that can be put onto the page.
Thank you so much. Well, if I can get my colleagues behind me to behave here for a moment. It's not easy, let me tell you. Is there anything any of you would like to add to the conversation this evening?
Don't worry, we'll put the wrong notes back in.
Yeah. We did already. Yep.
Should I think we'll wrap on that?
Yeah.
It was a wonderful concert. Thank you all so much.
Well, on that note, I want to again thank Andrew List, Nicholas Bentz, Daniel Kessner, and Charles Peck for being with us this evening. It's been a wonderful opportunity for us to share your fantastic music with our audience. And because this concert's also been recorded, it'll get out to a lot more people in days, weeks, months, and years to come. So thank you all for being with us, and thank you at home for those of you who've tuned in from wherever you are in the world. It's been great to have you share this tempo concert with us. All right.
Thank you.
From Pasadena,
Thank you.
good night, everybody.
Bye.